Hey everyone, Dr. Trayford here, and I have a very special guest with me today. Someone I've been looking to get on for a real long time. He's coming to us from the great state of Utah, and I'd like to introduce you all to Sherrick Peck. He is the founder and CEO of Rezimax LLC, Utah-based company, and he graduated from University of Utah in 1994 with a degree in physical therapy, and subsequently obtained a master's in counseling from Utah State University. He has 26 years of experience helping people eliminate pain from their lives. And at this point, I know, I've learned a lot about him at this point, but I would much rather he kind of tell you his story. So first off, welcome, Sherrick. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Trayford. It is so good to be here with you.
It's been a long time in the making, right? We finally did it. Awesome.
It's been what, almost 2 years since
I
first got to know you, and we exchanged a few emails and a few phone calls. And
right. Well, it's
been great.
It's been an awesome relationship. I appreciate you all so much for what you do, and I'm excited for everybody to learn about this impressive tool that we use every day in practice, and has really changed the trajectory of what we're doing in the realm of traumatic brain injury, learning and behavioral issues, addictions, etc. So before we get into any of that, I'd just like you to, if you would, just kindly share your story behind the story behind the man and the story behind the incredible tool that you've invented.
Well, thank you. I grew up out here in the western states, Arizona, Nevada, Utah. But really, I think a lot of my story starts at about the age of 2, when I was dumped on my head, probably sustained a brain injury. I don't know. They never tested it back then, but I broke my odontoid process, which is a very important part of the second cervical vertebrae that helps hold everything in your upper cervical region together. And it caused an instability and some definite problems growing. A few years later, I broke my back in a motor vehicle accident, and I think it was a year or 2 later from that, I was wrestling and got caught in a bad headlock. And this is where we started to understand the structural differences that my neck had with cervical instability, and it ruptured. Getting caught in that bad headlock, it ruptured an artery, one of the 4 main arteries that goes up to my brain. So I spent the next couple of years trying to learn how to walk again. Wow. After a massive stroke. And it affected my cerebellum, and it affected all kinds of things in my brain. I had weakness in the left side of my body. So I got to understand from the inside out what it's like to go through a major assault on the brain and learn to regain function again. After a few years later, after I finally got through high school and my brain was starting to work a little bit better, I went on to physical therapy school, and I better bring in a little introduction here. This is Myra.
There you go. Hi, Myra.
Myra has come to stay with us. She's had a bad couple of events in her family. And so I'm at the age where I'm a grandpa now. Myra isn't my granddaughter, but her family's come to live with us.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
And I don't mind if she helps out in our video.
That's great.
But some of the things that happen to people in their lives, like Myra and her family coming to live here, it's the product of extreme mental health issues. Her father committed suicide, and so happy to have her family be able to stay with us here. But injuries and insults and things like that, they affected my life tremendously. Learning to walk again, learning to feed myself again was a game changer. I came to really understand from the inside out that if the brain is not functioning very well, it's hard to get everything in life to function correctly.
Right.
a number of years later, as I got married and I was studying in school, I decided to dedicate my life to helping others get back their functioning after they've had an injury or illness. And so started my direction in the physical therapy world. I'll tell you though, it really hasn't been until the last couple of years that I have come to understand that all of my study, all of my training, I wish that I would have understood the functional neurology world way back then, because
Yeah.
I would have been completely immersed in that world. Um, but years in physical therapy, I was helping a lot of people, but not nearly to the degree that I knew that I could. And really, one night about 10 years ago, I woke up with this concept that the thing that I had been missing in trying to help people to heal their brain, heal their nervous system, heal their chronic pain, had something to do with an energy field, and that energy was vibration. Now, I have studied all kinds of things about vibration in the last 10 years, and I found that there's bad kinds of vibration, but there are some tremendous subtle energies in vibration that are imperative, that are just very important to get the human and other animals to heal. And one of the funnest connections that I came to understand one day was that the vocal cords are a direct branch of the vagus nerve. And just that little piece of understanding opened up my brain to realize that if we have such an important part of us that vibrates, there's got to be a way that we can use a very carefully calibrated vibration to get the rest of the nervous system to start behaving better. And so started my journey into first researching all kinds of vibration devices to see if I could find something that would already be on the market that would work. I couldn't find any of them. I took all kinds of vibration devices apart to see how they worked and see how they functioned, and tested the resonance out on different things. And some of them could help a little bit, but they were not getting the nervous system into a complete healed state. And that's what I was looking for. And so started the journey to creating. Now, I'm a physical therapist. I'd never meant to be an inventor, but here we are, years later, and I've got 3 patents and 2 more pending. And I've learned the world of manufacturing because I had to figure out a way to create the right kind of resonance.
Right.
And that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
We finally had created the right kind of resonance, and people started hearing about it all over the world. Eventually, our devices that we've created, they're now, I think we're up over 9,000 devices that we've created and that we've sent all over to at least 50 countries. And, and reports coming in all the time about how it's helping people heal from brain injuries and addictions and trauma. And it's been great.
Right. And that's the thing too, because necessity is the mother of invention. You created this thing for your own means and your own healing, which, my goodness, what you've lived through, any one of those conditions, the odontoid fracture, the stroke, et cetera, any one of those could have, really, theoretically, figuratively or literally ended someone's life. But you persevered and you found things that worked for you. And that's where, the most incredible inventions come from. And yes, yours too, it seemed like the initial emphasis, from what I understand and talking with you over time, seemed to be more on the physical pain, but clearly over time, and from our perspective, because we don't see very much physical pain in our practice, it's the psychological pain and the other types of, emotional trauma, et cetera, that people go through, that it is just as effective for, if not more effective. Hey, how are you?
Thank you, Myra.
So, it seems to be just, we're all frequency based. We talk about this all the time. Everything around us is frequency, light, sound, everything, vibration, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, I have used countless vibration tools in practice over the past 20 years, and nothing I have used has come close to the therapeutic benefits of this particular tool. And I know we've talked about this, but kind of in layman's terms, what is it about the frequency or range of frequencies on this particular device versus, say, I don't want to name other devices, but some of the more, kind of aggressive vibration devices, the handheld ones, that, they do have ranges of intensity. But can you talk about that a little bit, and where that healing property of the frequency comes in?
Absolutely. Part of what is really helpful to understand is there are a variety of ways that vibration motors are made for massage devices, and some of them are extremely well made, and some of them are like taking a jackhammer to
Yeah.
somebody. It might feel nice immediately to interrupt their pain signals, but it doesn't put their nervous system into a healing state. And so instead of taking the typical vibration motor, which really is just an on and off switch, uh, that just goes right side, left side, and makes something kind of jiggle like that. That's the typical vibration device that you're pulling off of a shelf, and has some well-known names attached to the brand. We have created instead an elliptical resonance device. So we took a motor, and we calculated exactly how to get a perfect harmonic range into our device. We actually took something really simple as our model. We took the purring of a cat, which is controlled by its vagus nerve, which is, one of the reasons maybe that we think a cat heals so well from all kinds of things is
Right.
it uses that vagus nerve extremely well to recover from things. So we just took something that was already existing in nature and took that harmonic range and mechanized it. We actually split those frequencies up into about 3,000 identified levels. And we shoot various ranges back into the nervous system through the acupressure points that help the brain to find balance in something that's already existing out in nature. It's kind of like taking one of the best healing modalities that we know in creation and sticking it on the brain and on the body in certain ways that it helps it to find its balance again.
Right, right. Well, that's incredible. Kind of like bridges being built on designs of the arch of the foot. It's nature does tend to give us the answers if we look close enough. That's amazing. So it's not just about taking power and putting it into the body. That clearly has certain therapeutic effects, but being able to meter and manage the power, and also too, that concept of less is more sometimes. We talk about low level lasers and things like that, very low power, where a lot of people think you need high power for a greater effect, but it doesn't work that way. More is not necessarily better. It's about tapping into what is appropriate for the body and giving the body and the brain information so that it can begin its processes or cycles of healing. So is that kind of in line with your thinking as you put this together?
Exactly. In fact, our machines, our device is quite strong,
Yeah.
but we actually get some of the best benefits by toning it down to the lowest level, and
Right.
sometimes even patting it with a towel or a pillow so that we create a very, very low level resonance that the
Right.
brain can start interacting with.
Right.
And
Yeah, I've
fascinating
been
to
I've
see
been
what
somewhat afraid to turn it up as long as I've had it, because we tend to do well in the lower frequencies based on the populations that we see. I know we've talked about, and I just asked you the other day, when do you really get it up to that level 10 or so? And it's, with the muscle scraping and the pain syndromes. And we'll talk about, what is muscle scraping and that kind of thing. But yeah, we tend to live in the lower frequencies on a lot of things, not just vibration, but neurofeedback, laser, et cetera. So it's pretty interesting to see how we can dial in frequencies for the types of conditions one has or the populations that we see. Yeah. Good, good, good. So why, it makes sense, there's kind of an understanding of why, you called it the tuner, but why a tuner? What's tuner versus vibration? We've been talking about some of the differences, but why tuner?
In working with so many injured individuals over the years, I've noticed that the body in its full healthy state seems to be like a finely tuned instrument.
Yeah.
And that when a person has a concussion or has a brain injury or a stroke, it seems like so many other processes in the body are all out of balance as well. And the best thing that I could equate that to is a finely tuned instrument that is beautiful and ready for a concert that got banged and run down a hill a few times, and suddenly it's out of tune. It's, you know, maybe not capable of holding its same tune. So this concept of tuning is just simply bringing the nervous system back into a high level of functioning, just like a finely tuned instrument or your car.
Right.
It doesn't sound so good if that car is, you know, out of tune. And that's something that makes great sense to my mind. We're just simply tuning the brain or giving it a point to tune to so that it remembers how to hold itself at a better level of functioning.
Right. That's great. Yeah. And when we have folks use it on some of the various settings, you know, something they talk about is how they just feel more kind of in tune, more connected to their body. So, you know, I think so much of it we can explain, but there's also this whole element that, you know, that's beyond our pay grade, so to speak. You know, that we're just, you know, scratching the surface of the understanding and the capabilities of, you know, vibration of this nature. So I'm real excited because every day I work with it, I just have a new realization or understanding of what can be done. So tell me a little bit about just share, you know, aside from your healing process, just, you know, give me one or two of your greatest success stories with the tuner.
You know, one of the funnest ones that I've had with it scared me to death. I was in the clinic and a person came in and she says, you know, I've been having frequent seizures and I've heard that you've made this machine. What can it do for me? And, you know, I started just checking her pressure points and touching on her neck and touching on her foot. And all of a sudden she flipped into a full-blown grand mal seizure. And it just, I had not ever seen that happen before. And I knew exactly where I'd pushed on her. It was a spot on her neck that kicked her nervous system into that. Now, I wasn't really afraid because I knew what had happened, but I'd never seen the nervous system freak out in such a strong way.
Right.
And immediately I started to understand a few things about resonant frequencies. Immediately I grabbed the tuner and I thought, well, okay, if that spot, which was on the right side of her neck, just at C1, C2, if that spot with some pressure on it triggered her into a full-blown seizure, I wonder if I could use some of the spots on the left side of the body, which would be the opposite brain pattern, to help bring her out of that. And over the course of the next 5 or 6 minutes, I played with different pressure points and was able to watch her completely come out of a seizure. And she said, this has never happened before, that I feel so good after the seizure. Usually I'm wiped out for hours at least, but I just feel awful. And that makes sense because her brain has just done a complete reboot. Now, somebody that's got this pattern going on inside of them, their nervous system is completely out of balance or out of tune. And being able to experiment and discover what would help turn her seizures off, it was so fun because we watched an individual that had not been able to work in 6 months because of these massive seizures. And we were able to teach her and her husband the points to hit, which would bring her out of a seizure. The next step we were able to go to was teaching her nervous system how to stop going into a seizure pattern. And it took just a couple of months before her seizures, which were 3 or 4 grand mal seizures a day, were down to where she was just having one every few weeks or so, and then one every couple of months. And watching that pattern change, I learned so much that has helped guide a lot of the development of our Tuner Pro, which is the model that you now have. And it helped me to understand an awful lot that we put into the the techniques that we teach people that help people all over the world now. That
Right.
was one such one such experience, but we've had dozens and dozens and hundreds of experiences watching people have their migraine headaches turned off. We've watched them learn how to stop having migraine headaches. One of my favorite ones, and you can see his video on YouTube, is a little boy that his parents brought him in to me and said he's been having chronic, awful headaches daily, unrelenting, day or night, for almost 6 months. And it took us, again, about a month or two to be able to turn that process off for him and to watch him get his life back, start back going to school again, and being able to function. And now he's playing basketball again. And to watch these changes in a person that was essentially curled up into a ball, it's life-changing, and it's so fun.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's amazing too. And then just all of the other stuff that comes with that. You know, the person with the seizures now, hopefully after a certain period seizure free, coming off the Keppra and everything else that they're likely taking is huge. And then the pain medications, you know, we see young people taking, you know, all kinds of hard, you know, anti-migraine or, you know, pain, even opioid types of medications. So, you know, this device, you know, in addition to helping with the obvious, really helps so much more, helps get people away from the things that could potentially lead to severe addictions and other problems down the line. So that's just absolutely tremendous. Now, you touched on resonant frequencies. You said the magic word there, resonant frequencies. Now, in again, layman's terms, can you explain this for the people watching? Because I know there's a lot of people, number one, that you know, have this tool at home and they want to understand a little bit more about how it works. But can you just delve in for a few minutes into resonant frequencies and how that has that kind of therapeutic effect?
Absolutely. You know, one of my favorite things to think about is if you take a rock and you toss it into a still pond and you watch those ripples go out, that is a form of resonant energy. That is you know, an action that causes other things to move. And we see that all the time. Some of the resonant frequencies we see are bad, like car accidents, and the damage that occurs in a zone and in the bodies of people that are in them.
Right.
But the resonant frequencies that I love to watch are gentle movements that allow the cells to start functioning in a happier state, if you will. So we take and create an energy for the body to be able to focus on. So we take the levels that our device is set at, and it's roughly from 44 to 106 hertz is the main primary resonant range. But that allows us to go the full scale from about 0 to over 10,000 hertz. That's how we measure cycles per second, or hertz are the measurements for vibration. But it allows us to have this big energy field while our primary energy field is very small. It creates wavelengths that allow us to take advantage of all kinds of energy levels in the nervous system. It's if that makes good sense, that ripple effect, in essence, it's just lining up the atoms and getting them all to spin and line up and start functioning better.
So essentially your body's the pond and the Rezimax is the rock, right? Is that to
Exactly.
a degree? To a degree. So it's the interaction of the frequencies created by this device with the tissues, you know, muscle, skin, water, all that good stuff, bone, brain, that creates other frequencies. And then the resonant frequency is the result of that, correct?
Yeah, if you actually, if you've ever taken a camera and put the tuner on somebody and slowed down the video, you'll see that it creates these ripple effects that just go out from that area of application, which means that's what's actually going through tissue, soft tissue. That's what's actually going through all those areas. We amplify that by having a person hum while using it if they can.
Right.
If they can't, that's not a big deal. But if they can, and if they can hum, we use those vocal cords or a direct branch of the vagus nerve to amplify that resonant pattern that's going through their central nervous system.
Awesome. Yeah. So and that's, I'm glad you brought that up, because we see a lot of folks with diffuse axonal brain injury, anoxic brain injury, stroke, et cetera, severe traumatic brain injuries. And, just using this, in and around the throat, the vocal cords, et cetera. We've had people vocalizing that were never able to vocalize before. And even if it's just a hum, that's a method of communication this person has now that they didn't have previously. Maybe an eye blink or something like that, but now they actually have voice, which is probably the most profound source of independence one has. Even when you're locked in your body, you still have the the beginnings of something that you can use to communicate with others. And yeah, that's just so amazing to see. I love that. Awesome. So now tell me, you've got one, I'm sure I know you've got them 15, 20 laying around at any given time. Uh, we have a bunch of people that are going to be listening to this and seeing this that have a device that want to know more, and then plenty of other people that haven't. Can you just demonstrate just a simple technique? Maybe, you said like the humming or even the chest, something like that, just so people have an idea of an application that is profound for global relaxation or pain or whatever.
Let me, we did a university study a couple of years ago and found that there are 3 points. Well, there are 3 points that I asked them to study to find out the effectiveness of our device in calming down the central nervous system. And the 3 points that we picked were right in the middle of the eyebrows and at the back of the neck and inside the mouth. And I picked those 3 points because in all of my working with thousands of patients, I saw that those 3 points would calm down the central nervous system faster than just about anything. And when you go back to the anatomy, you can understand exactly why they work so effectively. But those points right here in the middle of the eyebrows, if we put the device right on those, put the tongue past the teeth just barely, and hum. It doesn't take very long at all, but you can see the central nervous system starting to get that message. Now, if we break that apart anatomically, this is where it gets really exciting, because there is a direct branch of the trigeminal nerve that comes out right there. It's the supraorbital branch, comes out of a little hole right in the eyebrow spot there. And it just so happens that that branch of the trigeminal nerve is not the one involved in chewing and a lot of other functions there. And we find that that particular branch has more of the calm down fibers for the central nervous system than any other component of that very important nerve that helps you eat and chew and smile and do all kinds of things with your face. So we take those pressure points, and in essence, we've got a perfect entry into the brain through a cranial nerve. But better than that, we also go in through the sphenoid bone and through other structures to get right into the middle of the brain through those points. Now, I was just fascinated watching people, calm down their headaches and turn off their migraine and wondering why those points were so effective. But you just follow the anatomy and you can see exactly why that works so well. From there, you can just apply it to any part of the body. In particular, I love this point at the back of the neck. We put it so that the body of the device is just down, straight down our spine. These points on the outside hit against this very important sternocleidomastoid muscle. That's one of the most important big muscles trying to hold your head on and not let it roll on down the street. And so we hit those points, and we hit these points, the what we call the suboccipital muscles in the back of the neck, and they have a profound relaxation effect on the central nervous system. From there, just taking that understanding and amplifying it with our intonation, we can teach people how to get to the point where, like a man that came into my clinic the other day, and brought his daughter because she was having one-sided tremors after seeing a doctor. Um, he said, "Can you get it to calm down? And can you teach her how to do that humming thing? Because you have taught me how to do this, and I can turn off some of my significant low back pain just by humming because I've used the tool and I've learned how to calm it down." So there's just so much fun that we have in applying the device onto some of those acupuncture points that get the entry straight into the brain and teach it how to start calming down. And from there, we can teach the brain how to function better over time and eventually not even need the device
Right.
because it's learned how to keep itself in tune.
Right. I love that to say that, because anything we do with folks, we tell them all the time, hopefully at some point you won't have to use this anymore. That is just, that's great. Now, tell me about the humming while we're on that. Are you trying to match the frequency of the device as best you can, or does it matter how you hum? Because some people really have a hard time. We'll talk to them about matching the frequency of the device, but some people have a really hard time because of, neurological issues. What's your suggestion there?
So it is faster if you can match it. But some of our patterns that we developed into the device, it's got these 4 algorithm patterns, and the frequency is changing what must be 30, 40 times per second.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard to match that.
Right.
What we found is that just a low level guttural is just fine.
Right.
Humming a song is just fine, other than you're going to create some frequencies that are as you're humming a song, you're changing your own frequencies and your own harmonics so much that some of those won't be right on with the device.
Right.
But just that low level hum, guttural, if you can't hum, just moan.
Right.
and if you can't moan, buzz.
Right.
Right. anything at all that just creates a low level sound in there,
yeah,
generates that increased activity in the vagus nerve.
Yeah.
You had a wonderful tip that you shared one day about gargling, and gargling is another similar vagus nerve activation technique.
Right.
And I liked how you said long and hard and proud. Just give a good strong vibration. So many people don't they don't feel comfortable humming,
right,
for some reason, but once they realize that it actually helps their nervous system figure out how to feel better,
yeah,
they usually don't mind after that.
Yeah, that's great. And there's so many activities for people that can't do certain things, the loud and proud gargling, the humming, the, even bearing down, those types of things. Even before, if I feel like I'm getting worked up and just need to kind of get down real quick, I'll put it on, with the attachments under the clavicles, and then on the chest, the body of the unit on the chest. And I'll just do tactical breathing. So 4-second breath in, 4-second hold, 4 seconds out. 3 of those and things are just way, way lower than where they were. But yeah, all of that falls under that, quote unquote, vagal stim heading there. So that's great information. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. I mean, there's so much we can talk about. What's next for Rezimax? I mean, it's, this is such a cool tool. I want to speak to it too. In the fact that, in terms of being so well thought out, and I just have to commend you, compliment you, brag on you a little bit about this, because I've never in my life, and I'm a tool guy, a gadget guy, we don't jump into things lightly, and I will kick the tires on anything I look at for a long period of time before I feel we want to enter it into our program. But just the first time I looked at this, I could see that it was designed with so much intent. I mean, every nook and cranny of this device can be used for something. And I'm still, again, 2 years later, finding new applications. I was just working with somebody's TMJ muscles the other day using this little point right here. And, just watching blood pressure, heart rate drop by 20 or 30 points. So the wings as well, all these applications, the pointer, you name it. But how, I mean, that must have taken you really forever to think about all these different applications before you got to the device you wanted.
That the device that we created took about 5 years
Wow.
of developing. I think we used somewhere around 13 or 14 engineers until we could finally create what we wanted. And everybody told us that we were absolutely crazy. They said, you need to go and ask the world what they want and then create it.
Right.
And I said, I've just got this strong feeling that I need to create what the world needs. But then I found I've got this big problem. I've got to go educate the world how to use it.
Right.
But but you're right. Everything on the device, to the way that these tongs work. One of our patents is just on that particular thing. You see, it allows us to take the resonance that's created in the middle of the device here and have the exact same forces come out of these tongs at the end here.
Right. Right.
It's very important in how that functions. And if you have one side that works good and one side that doesn't,
Yeah.
it doesn't work right. And so we took a long time and a lot of engineering work to go into that ability to create that exact resonance through our application here. It's got these wings on it, which we created the very first device that took a very ancient technology, which is just simply taking a piece of bone or a piece of rock and scraping the body with it. That's been around for years. And in all of our Eastern philosophies, it's been used for a long time. I was in Japan just a few months ago, and they call that technique guasa, using a small curved end to rub on spots on the body to wake up, essentially to get it to heal better. Well, we took our resonant patterns and we took the best shape that I could figure out here to be able to get into fingers and get into points in and around the body. And I created what they called a flying squirrel body. And, but it makes it so useful. And so I was just trying to figure out everything that I could in here, the curves in it, everything that's designed in here was made so that it would fit against some part of the body in a way that I hoped to be able to get it to calm down and get it to function better.
Right.
It was a lot of work.
I bet 5 years. My goodness, you are you stick to it. That is just awesome, and I'm glad you did. Yeah, those wings too are really impressive because I've had a lot of soft tissue work done, and there's lots of techniques that use curved devices, metal devices, and others that can be incredibly painful. Especially if not done by a seasoned professional. But with the vibration, with the frequency applied to it, it almost creates a frictionless application, which is really, really cool. Because especially when you talk to somebody about, okay, now we're going to start scraping your muscle, they think, what's going on here? But then they realize very quickly that it's a very low pain option, particularly if they're already in pain, which nobody wants more pain than they already have. So that's great. Good. So what are, we just talked about that. I know I diverted a little bit, but what's next? What's next? I know you have plans. I mean, I know you don't want to divert too far from the main plan, but what's next if you're allowed to speak about it, if anything?
I am allowed to speak about it, and but my wife says that I'm not allowed to invest in it. It's very expensive, as you can imagine, to create these tools. And I've got another half a dozen tools I'd love to create, but I have to get the message out about how to be able to help at a primary level first.
Right.
One of the things that we've been playing with recently, though, is creating a new, slightly different version of the device that has a travel pack carry case for it. And we've just been playing with that. I've sent a few dozen of them out to let people try out and give us some feedback on them. We're also working on everybody wants technology these days. My practitioners, like Dr. Trayford, would like to dial in a specific frequency for a specific application, I need to create the controls to be able to do that. We've
Right.
taken what is the best setup for the majority of people, but some of my favorite practitioners want to be able to focus that in or hone that in. They may not want it to be at 33 hertz. They may want to get it down to 14 or 12 hertz for
Right.
certain applications. And so we're working on a controller to be able to
That's
do
great.
that. That's one of the great hopes that I have.
That's great. Yeah, especially again when we talk about combining frequencies, be it light frequencies, be it other types of applications that we can offer. I did want to ask. I did have one specific request. Somebody because there are a lot of people that are that have this that are watching that have a unit. So the round button in the middle is kind of a no man's land for a lot of folks. They're almost afraid to press it because you get into these predefined algorithms, and that word just scares people, I think, algorithms. But so the different colored programs, what are they for? What can they do, and why are they there? Because I just see from personal experience, people might be avoiding it because it's the unknown. So just for folks that are watching that may not be touching that little round button in the middle, can you give a couple of minutes on that there?
Absolutely. I need to give you the background on why those patterns are there. And a lot of my ideas wake me up very early in the morning. And if I can't stop thinking about it, I figure I've got to do something with it. Well, one of these experiences happened about 4 years ago in August, actually. And I woke up with this understanding or this concept that now that we were creating energy that we could give the nervous system something to tune to, I needed to create some other patterns into the device to help the nervous system take its functioning to a much higher level. And in particular, these 4 different algorithms. An algorithm is just another name for a pattern. These 4 patterns came to my mind. And the first 3 of these, I really understood why we needed them. You see, they're essentially just like taking the waves. When you're sitting at the beach and the waves are coming in, we're taking those waves of energy that our body is used to. It's used to all kinds of waveforms, and we're just creating something for it to follow. In essence, it's kind of like a herd of horses that runs rampant. If you can get in front of that herd of horses and start turning them, you'll get them to calm down. As long as they're running straight on, there's hardly anything that can stop them. So we created these patterns of going up and coming back down very gently, just like waves of the ocean. And these first couple of programs do that very nicely. In particular, the blue one, it takes about 4.5 minutes to go through a cycle of up and slowly down. And then we put some mathematics to it. Now, during that cycle, it goes through about 3,000 calibrated energy points. So we're giving the nervous system a very complex song. It's just like running a bunch of instruments and the body is learning a tune or a song. We're giving the body a song through those energy levels. The second program is exactly the same as the first, but it does it about 3 times faster. So it's exactly the same patterns, but it speeds it up. Now, our concept for this came from watching my kids play piano. They would get a really hard piece and they would start playing it, and it sounded awful, but over time you started to notice that there was some form to that piece that they were playing, and they would play it awfully slow until they could get all of those notes. And then they started speeding up faster and faster and faster. And pretty soon you recognize that that's Pour Elise, and that's a neat song. So the blue mode is a great learning mode for the brain. The green mode is taking that song and playing it concert level on steroids.
Okay.
Next, we have the third mode, which is I put a red color on that for a purpose. I didn't want people using that one just willy-nilly. That's the most important one to understand. That mode is actually flipped or reversed from our first two calm down modes. The blue is very calming, the green is very calming, but it also gets your nervous system ready to compete. That third algorithm flips everything like you've just ridden a roller coaster, which is very important also for the nervous system sometimes. You see, we could take a person that's had a bad seizure pattern and run that red frequency through there, which wakes up the central nervous system. It's kind of like grabbing a chain on a big unmanageable dog and just yanking the chain so that it realizes, whoa, I've got to stop. So the red mode will wake up the central nervous system. I will always follow it up with blue or green.
Okay.
Because I want to get it back into a nice harmonic waves of the ocean balance. So I could not understand when I woke up that day why anyone would want to have that red mode, but I knew it needed to be in there. Over time, I've come to understand that red mode is exactly what a lot of people who have chronic conditions need. People that have autoimmune conditions need to have their central nervous system needs to have its chain yanked a little bit and then get it back into balance.
Right.
So it's not painful. It's just that your nervous system recognizes that as a little bit unsettling, which lets it then get back into a better state of balance. And then we have one more mode on there, which is what I call my white mode, which is what I would call white noise. And it's just simply letting yourself go down a very nice Appalachian trail like you have all over the place back there.
Yes, we do.
It's just very gentle. It's meandering. It's very calming, but it doesn't repeat itself over and over like those first two or first three modes do.
Right.
It's a great meditation mode.
Good. Well, that I really appreciate that. And I want to share something with you because this might be hopefully a revelation for you. But the red mode, I've been using that based on certain patients' laboratory analysis. So what happens is if you're familiar with cortisol, salivary cortisol testing, people, they spit into a tube several times a day, and you should have this big, jump in cortisol first thing in the morning, and then it should kind of go down as the day goes on. That big jump in the morning to prime the body, get the body and brain ready for the day. And then, by the time you get to bed, cortisol levels should be lower so that we can get to sleep. And then it starts all over the next day, goes up, comes down, goes up, comes down. What happens is, and particularly we're seeing a lot in professional males that are just burnt out. They're not sleeping well, 4 or 5 hours a night, go to bed late, wake up early, lots of technology, lots of stresses with job, family, et cetera, et cetera. And their testosterone levels are plummeting. Everything is just, shifting. Their blood lipids are going up, blood sugar starting to be impacted. Well, the cortisol awakening response, CAR, if you're not familiar with that, we should have an elevation of cortisol first thing in the morning, a certain percentage, 50% or greater elevation in cortisol first thing in the morning. Most of these men in particular, we're seeing actually negative numbers. So they're waking up, and what they're having is they're starting pretty much flatline and going flatline all day, maybe some spikes along the way. We're using that red setting for them. As soon as they wake up in the morning, just put it right on chest, neck, other places. So we're actually creating a stress response first thing in the morning to elevate those cortisol levels artificially. So now they can start to get this flux, this up and down, up and down. Now we're starting to retest them 2 and 3 months later and seeing much normal cortisol patterns. They're sleeping better. We haven't gotten to the testosterone retests just yet, but that's next. So pretty cool stuff.
That is brilliant. That's a perfect use for that red mode.
Right, right.
It is designed to wake up the central nervous system. I tell people, don't use that mode late in the evening because that's when you want to be calming down and going to sleep. Right. But that's a perfect way, and it definitely I have known that it has quite an effect on cortisol and adrenaline.
Right.
Um, and I'm interested to know if it has an effect on that testosterone level as well.
Yeah.
But
This is
that's a fascinating
I
thing that you
will,
came up with.
put the, the asterisks around that and say, this is a limited kind of clinical outcome study, but it seems to be working quite well. So if anybody's watching or listening, clearly talk with your doctor about this, because you don't necessarily want to ramp things up when you shouldn't ramp them up. But we're finding very positive impacts in a few cases we're seeing right now. Yeah, very cool.
Well, and that concept of ramping up and ramping down, that's the same thing that occurred with our friend with seizures.
Yeah.
You can ramp things up, bring a person into a seizure if they're prone to having them, if their nervous system's well dialed into that. And that shouldn't put you in a state of fear as long as you can bring them back down out of that. And that's the moral of that story. And the moral of the story here with our cortisol levels is you can get things back into balance by teaching the body how to get back into its natural rhythms.
Right.
In effect, you are tuning the central nervous system and getting it back into that. I love that.
And allowing it to be less reactive to other stimuli as well, because seizure, for example, what's the biggest trigger for most people aside from stress is light. Especially flashing lights, so certain frequencies of light put people over the edge. Full-blown seizure, if they can integrate more effectively from a neurological standpoint and tolerate varied frequencies, then that just basically lowers their seizure threshold. They're prone to it, they have epilepsy, but it just lowers their threshold. So the more we can alter those frequencies, unbelievable what the outcomes can be for people. So Sherrick, I know we could talk all day, all night, and all week about this. We're coming up on time. Just want to be make sure we, kind of stay within that time. We're going to have a part 2 on this at some point for sure. Tell me, or tell the folks, where can they reach you? I know, Rezimax.com, but where else? I know you have libraries of information. We have folks asking all the time about videos for applications. So kind of tell people where they can find you online.
We have quite a large YouTube library, some 70 some odd videos. You can even see how to use it on horses and animals there. We have quite a presence on Vimeo as well. Some of our videos there are more used on websites, but they're welcome to reach out directly to me. My email address, you're welcome to provide that at Sherrick@Rezimax.com.
Okay.
I
Sherrick
love to
being
get back to people.
I just want to spell that SHARIK at Rezimax, REZZIMAX. So
Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Love to visit with people. You can find my phone number right on our website, www.rezimax.com. Connect with us on Facebook. We do have a private Facebook group for practitioners, where we share a lot more of our practitioner videos. But we love to answer questions. I'll hop on a Zoom call if somebody's having difficulties understanding how to apply it for their particular situation. There are crazy conditions out there like trigeminal neuralgia and some of these others that require a little different approach than our normal one. But I'm happy to help anybody that is in need be able to understand how to use it best for them and their family.
Perfect. Yeah. And I appreciate you so much for that, because you came out, last year, and we had a great visit, and it's just great to, have your knowledge of the device and our knowledge of the patients we see, and kind of put that together for the best. And it's, every day that knowledge grows because of you being able to share that with us. So thank you. And you've also been kind enough to, for our patients and for our listeners here to, to offer pretty substantial savings on the Rezimax too. So, it's Rezimax.com, and just through the / my last name, Trayford, TRAYFORD. And how much does that get them off the unit?
It gives them 20% off, and we send them a free pillow and a free extremity strap for brain training.
Perfect.
So it takes about $140 off the process.
Good deal. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll have that information in the show notes, but Rezimax.com / my last name, Trayford, TRAYFORD. So we're just about the end. Any parting thoughts from your end, my friend?
To me, it's been fascinating to watch practitioners such as yourself be able to fully understand how to use our device. You know, I understood how to help a lot of people with our device, but really it's the functional neurologists that understand enough of the human nervous system and interactions and nutrients and all kinds of other things, chemistry, that are taking our device and being able to help so many individuals with it because of their advanced understanding. I
Right.
just want to say thank you for your group of like-minded practitioners that are helping so many people with our invention.
Yeah, thank you. And it's just, it's serendipitous that we were able to find out about you and just kind of help expose you to that world, because it really is. It's, there's so many tools out there. And, I liken this to so many other tools where, it's almost like having a Ferrari, but you're in a 30-mile-an-hour zone and you can't go any faster. And then all of a sudden something just opens up where you can actually see the applications of the device based on who's using it. And there's phenomenal practitioners out there across the board. We weave into many different healthcare communities and just love everybody's input on what they do. But yes, the realm of functional neurology, I really feel is just embracing this tool to no end, and again, just discovering new things every day. So we look forward to what's on the horizon, and to keep in touch with you. And like I said, there'll be a part 2 down the line somewhere. So thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate you, and have a great time out there in Utah.
Thank you. Thank
All
you. I'll be back there sometime too.
right, my friend. Take care.